David Price says that he's hoping to land a shot at Anthony Joshua and his IBF World Heavyweight title later on this year. Now, I've already made a video, which most of you have probably seen, about Price fighting on Sunday against a guy called Vaclav Pejsar. And some people took exception to the fact that I was saying this could be a potential banana skin for David Price, because they've gone and had a look at Pejsar and they say, you know what, he's not very good. He's actually terrible. Yeah, he's strong and whatnot, and he's managed to avoid getting knocked out in his 2 losses against 2 fairly decent fighters. But other than that, the guy's poor. And I agree with you. Let's not get it confused here. Let's not misconstrue what I was saying in my original video. David Price is much better than Pejsar in terms of skills, ability, and what have you. But David Price is a guy who has a habit of getting dropped when he shouldn't be getting dropped. That's the only thing. And David Price is coming back from a devastating knockout defeat, a long layoff. He is, in boxing terms, not the strongest guy mentally, not the most naturally confident guy mentally. Again, in boxing terms. So when you put all that into context and you put him in there with a guy like Pejsar, who's never been stopped. Okay, he ain't had that many fights, but he's been in there with guys who can punch. Never came close to getting knocked out by those guys. Then you maybe worry a little bit for David Price. He was dropped, if you remember, by Parler, a guy he fought prior to fighting Erkan Tepa. And some people say it was more of a clothesline than a punch. Maybe it was. He still went down. In fact, it's more disturbing that he went down from a clothesline rather than a punch, because it's not like the guy was bigger than him and he came rushing at him with a clothesline. No, he threw a punch at him as if he was going to throw a left hook, I think it was, but the forearm caught him rather than the fist. And he still went down. So, terrible balance, poor chin, a combination of the two, take your pick. Do I think David Price will beat Pejsar? Yes, I do. I would pick David Price to beat Pejsar. I'm not one of these people who's going to be putting money on a Pejsar upset win. But it wouldn't shock me. Let's put it that way. And to be fair, a lot of people in the comment section to that video were saying the same thing. There were certain people obviously being sarcastic, saying, at this stage, Hatman, my sister would be a danger to David Price. You know what? I feel bad for laughing, because David Price comes across as a great guy. So I don't want to take the piss out of him or anything like that. I mean, he'd take my head off, so I don't want to take the piss out of him. And he'd take your head off too, by the way. Who you lot out there who are laughing at him. He's got serious power. He'd take anybody's head off if he lands on them clean. So I don't want to, take the piss out of the guy or anything like that. He is a nice guy, but this is the world of boxing. Boxing is a brutal sport, and there really is, in the ring at least, no room for compassion or anything like that in most cases. So somebody has to get knocked out. Nobody felt sorry for the guys who David Price was rendering unconscious, and there've been many people he's rendered unconscious. So it is what it is. Let me know what you think about David Price targeting Anthony Joshua, though, for later on this year. Do you think that's a realistic goal? Do you think Anthony Joshua should be fighting somebody like David Price? David Price obviously has to get a ranking within the IBF top 15 to be able to get a voluntary shot at Joshua. Joshua and Eddie Hearn had talked about fighting a unification with Tyson Fury later on this year. Don't know how realistic that is. Obviously, Tyson Fury has got to get past Vladimir Klitschko in the rematch. Assuming he does, then we'll see how serious Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua were about this Tyson Fury fight later on this year. If they weren't, will they target somebody like David Price? Eddie Hearn has gone on record in IFL TV interviews in the past week or so and said, look, David Price is going to have to fight somebody legitimate. And not just from Eddie Hearn's perspective, in terms of building Price's brand back up again to make it a risk worth taking for Anthony Joshua. And I say risk because David Price can punch, and if he lands on Anthony Joshua's chin, it could be good night Vienna. But so I'm talking about a risk in that sense, but also he has to prove himself in terms of, as I've already mentioned, the eyes of the IBF, because they have to give him a top 15 ranking to make that a viable fight. So who will David Price fight after, assuming he beats Pedsar? Who's he going to fight to be able to get that top 15 IBF ranking? I'm assuming he's going to have to fight somebody in the top 15 who's already there. You look at the names who are there. You got Andy Ruiz. You got Kubrat Pulev. I don't know where Takam's going to be now. Might still be in the top 15. Can't think of all the guys who are there now. But yeah, who do you think David Price will fight in the top 15? And do you think there's anybody who can beat in the top 15? Because some of you may say, you know what? It's a foregone conclusion. As soon as Price gets in there with anybody at world level, he's going to get found out again. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, people. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.